This next segment is from Jessica Alba, where she talks about motherhood and personal growth. A big part of what she shares is how motherhood reshaped her career and priorities. Maybe you've just started a new job. Maybe you started a new side hustle. Maybe you just had your first child and everything's changing. Or maybe your kids just left the home. All of these transitions impact the way we work, live, and think. It affects our relationship with our spouse, our partner, whoever that may be, and it impacts our relationship with our work. In this segment, Jessica Alba talks about how she teaches her kids resilience, self-worth, and using success for good. She also talks about how she's trying and been able to find balance between her personal ambitions and family life. I think this is such an important thing that we're all trying to juggle, and it will really resonate with you.
I think because it was such a struggle and so hard for my parents. They were young when they had me, and every day was a very kind of tumultuous environment just because they were in survival mode every day, struggling to get by. And they also didn't have necessarily the maturity or the tools to have context like this podcast, right? There wasn't this podcast when my parents were, young. We live now in a culture where so much of the stuff that just wasn't sort of serving humanity has been broken down. And there's this generation that's sort of thinking through, yes, we built these civilizations based off of necessity, a lot of these things that are power and ego driven, right? But now we're in a place where it's more about compassion, mindfulness, right? Openness. And that's how we're going to thrive and continue to thrive as a human race. And so I think, for my kids, I try to exemplify whatever that is. And at the same time, they are very aware of my faults, right? They're very aware that I, get stressed and I, get irritable and I don't sleep enough and all of those things. But, we have a dialogue about it. And I try to create a space of compassion, obviously for them, but also, just for them to sort of know that I'm trying. I think I just wanted peace, and I wanted security, and I wanted a sense of financial security. To me meant that you could then have peace and not be so stressed out. I also knew that my parents in a lot of ways were just sort of products of certain systems. When you have to support a family, how can you sort of get ahead? And they were learning as they were going. It's sort of flying the plane and fixing it at the same time. It wasn't until I became a parent, I think, that I really understood how difficult it was for them. Just being so young and not necessarily having the tools and not having, a setup, right, to thrive. I felt like I had a purpose. I didn't know what it was. I came from very simple, humble family.